Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a discussion group with students of the Motor Life program. And this evening, we're basically going to talk about what did you get from taking your Motor Life weekend or since taking your Motor Life weekend. So who'd be willing to share? Izzy and then Lorraine, Heidi after that.
I'm going to talk about one very small thing first. I hope to say more later. But I took my training over 35 years ago, more than half my lifetime. And when I look back, I can't imagine what my life would have looked like if I hadn't had that opportunity when I did, in absolutely every area of my life, transformed, just transformed. But one very small specific thing was I used to have a lot of headaches. My headaches would be here on my temples. And after the weekend, not only did I very rarely, and have I since, very rarely had headaches. If I do, using some of the skills and tools of the weekend, I can track back the moment that it started, why it started, and I can do something about it. It is, I don't need to have paracetamol in my house anymore. It is remarkable. Just a small thing, but remarkable.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else can resonate with Izzy about something like having headaches or any other physical pain? Certainly. Yes.
I haven't had that personally as my own body experience, but I'm a physiotherapist. And so many times over the years, I have seen people, come with headaches, neck pain, stress, and then just talking and even sharing some of the basic tools and allowing them to start noticing what their mind is creating. I've had some profound effects with patients who've really been able to manage their headaches and neck pains.
So what you're saying, Heidi, is given that you're a physio and you would be using physio techniques to relieve some pain, you're speaking about something else where you used skills that you learned on your weekend, because I know you, and you're speaking about release from a different space because of a cognitive release versus, and then it's a physical release. That's one of the benefits, right, of having done the weekend. You learn tools and skills that you either apply within your own life or with others who you come across. Thank you, Heidi. When did you take your weekend and what for you was transformative, Heidi?
So I did my weekend in November of 1997. And to be honest, when I did the weekend, I was really just an interested observer to start with. I sat right at the back row in the last seat and was sort of cringing at the idea that I might have to say or do anything. But actually, I've experienced the weekend just feeling very connected and sort of walked away from it thinking it was wise. There must have been some things that were wise for me, but then continued to practice on the weekend through the various opportunities. And it was quite soon after that I really had a profound, I'd say, breakthrough. At that stage, I was in my late 30s. I was single. I was quite happy being single. But then one of those dreaded events of having to go to a friend's wedding where I needed to ask the partner. And I'd had a few friends who I used to regularly go with, but this particular wedding, I just didn't want to go with all the people that I usually knew. So I asked someone new, and he said to me, well, he had a workshop that night and he had let me know on the Sunday, which was the Sunday before the wedding. And of course, Sunday came and he didn't phone. And I sat there with this absolute pit in my stomach and heard my mind telling me that it was because I wasn't clever enough, pretty enough, this enough or that enough, and that he was a coward and all sorts of things. And actually, when I used some of the tool of the training that night, I realized that actually the only thing that was true about it was that he hadn't phoned. And, for all I knew, he could have, something could have happened to him. Anyway, I made a clear choice to ask someone else, but the person phoned me about 2 days later And he said, no, he was really sorry that, he didn't get back to me. And I said, no, well, I wanted to go with you, but then when you hadn't phoned, I asked someone else. And he said, oh, you really made me realize what effect my procrastination has on other people. And I'm really sorry. But one of the things that emerged from that, I mean, we did stay friends after that, but one of the things that emerged for me was that I never worried again after that about asking anybody. I just got clear of the stuff that I wasn't good enough, pretty enough, no, clever enough. I just, like, next time the opportunity came, I just asked someone. And so that was one of the sort of early breakthroughs, and loads more, but I'll stop now.
How many of you really enjoyed that real example? An application of, this is what we're wanting actually this evening. If there's more, so if you want to speak, I think what's helpful is to be specific, like Heidi was. And Izzy spoke really about how, moving a headache it doesn't need paracetamol. She uses the tools of the More to Life weekend. So thank you, Heidi. We'll acknowledge everybody at the end. So Lorraine, you're up next.
Thanks, Vijay. So I took my training in March 1998. And when I took my training, it sounds really stupid, but I was really unhappy, but I had no idea why. I was just unhappy. And it seemed like I was unhappy most days. And I remember thinking, I hope I don't live long, because I don't want to live like this. I don't want to be this unhappy for the rest of my life. I just didn't want it. And I remember when I did my weekend, it was in a school and there were loads of people who were taking the training. And I'll be honest, I was a bit rebellious throughout the whole weekend. I was quite cynical. I thought, I don't really know how this is going to work. And I remember on the first evening when Roy, one of the trainers, said the first thing they said about the training, about it being a radical transformation. And I thought, yeah, I bet it is. And he recognized the look on my face, and he said to me, don't you believe me? I said, not really, no, I don't. I can't believe that what you're suggesting is going to work in a weekend. Bearing in mind, I was 43 at the time. So I'd lived like that for a long time. So I thought nothing's going to really change in a weekend. So when I did the training, as I said, I was quite rebellious. I didn't really do all the exercises I was asked to do. But something happened on the Sunday night when we do one of the processes, which I'm not going to say because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But I do remember Roy happened to be in the room when I tried to leave, because I didn't want to do it. And, I turned around to run and boom, I bashed into Roy. And I was scared. I was scared about doing the exercise. And Roy asked me about how old was I when I felt like that. And I said, I think about 8. And I've never forgotten it. And these tears came up, and it was just like a well. I've never had that experience since, but it was just like a well of tears that came up. And then on the last bit of the training, the late on the Sunday night, I just had an epiphany. I realized that how I was living didn't have to continue. I didn't have to be that unhappy. And I also realized I didn't know who I was. I thought I knew who I was, but I realized I didn't know who I was. And I made a declaration to myself on that night that the rest of my life was going to be spent finding out who I was, as opposed to who I thought I was. And so what the training has helped me to do is to do that, is to find out exactly who I am, find out what my skills and abilities are, because I didn't know what they are. So I've done lots of leadership roles in More to Life. And that has really stood me in good stead, because it's helped me to be more focused, helped me to be more purposeful, helped me to see what I can create. Whereas before, I was very unfocused, didn't even know it was possible to create things. I thought they happened or they didn't happen, but I didn't know how I could actually make them happen. And yeah, I mean, those days of being unhappy, I just don't have them anymore. I just don't have them.
Mhm.
And I just think to myself, how was it that I was that unhappy, and yet it's the complete opposite now. I mean, even when I have challenges, because we all have challenges, life doesn't not have challenges, but even then, I've never gone back to that place. I think that's the thing that has been the most profound. I've never gone back to that place where I've been so unhappy that I wished I would die. Never been there. In fact, I want to live as long as possible now. So for me, the training has made a huge difference to me in my life. And I worked as a social worker then. And because of the work I did with social work, it changed how I work with my clients, because I understood about the mind and what the mind can do and how it can take us down a path that often doesn't really serve us. And so I was able to use the skills I learned, as Heidi was saying, with my social work clients. So that's what I'm going to leave it at there for now.
Thank you, Lorraine. So you are speaking into coming into taking your weekend with skepticism, and you put up quite a fight, a level of cynicism, and you also were afraid at some point. So I just want to assure those who may be listening that you are free to leave at any time. So when you said you wanted to run and then you ran into Roy, I just want to assure people that we're not going to stop you in that way.
No, he didn't stop me. He just happened to be there, and I'm glad he was there.
Yes, yeah. And what you're saying you got from having experienced the weekend, even with your degree of reluctance and fight, you're still involved and getting more of your most authentic self. That's the way of me putting it across. How many years later that you're still on this journey?
23.
Sorry,
23.
years. Yeah. And
coming up for 24 actually in March next year.
Right, and easy 35 years ago, and still being the kind of woman who is out to be the best every aspect of her life person she can be, from grandmother to mother to friend to somebody who lives this work and empowers people with her online courses and other courses that she's doing. So thank you, Lorraine. Who'd love to go next? Ken and then Boo.
Thanks. It's almost too big a question, because I think back, it was 26 years ago, in May 1995, and I can barely recognise who I was before. And I think I would sum it up by saying it was freedom from the tyranny of my mind. So I had a very powerful mind, used to calculate everything and criticise everything, and it was either me criticising me or looking outwards, judging things around. And in terms of the value that I had in myself, I can remember thinking at the time, I was almost nagged into going onto the life training weekend, as it was called then. And I got hung up about the cost. And I can remember being obsessed with the thought the cost of spending this money on myself was the same as buying a new video recorder. And it wasn't worth that. I wasn't worth that. And so I started on the Friday, observing, watching. And I think what started to open me up was hearing people's stories about their fears, their concerns, their worries, what held them back, what were the problems in their lives. And I just felt so connected, because it was, them and me too, them and me too. And I just felt more connected in the struggles that people were having. And throughout the whole weekend, I was kind of coaxed out of my shell of looking out by some people around who were using their experience of using some very real processes and exercises to challenge their critical minds, to step into a space where they felt more connected, freer to make choice. And because they felt more connected in that space, they wanted to support other people too. And I can remember being very conscious of a lot of people around looking out for me, holding me, caring about me. And I don't even remember who they were, just that they were there. And they created a space that allowed me to develop. Now, I'm not going to say it was, and then with the bound, he was free. I learned some exercises, some processes, and then I had to go off and practice and use them. And so it was then a developmental process. And the more you use them, the more you practice them, the more skillful you get, just like any other practice or skill. And then something emerged in me as I want to support others too. So from being turned inwards, I was increasingly turned outwards. And that influenced everything. The relationships I had with those I loved and my connections with my family, more friends, more deeply. So it opened a door and it gave me the choice to be differently, almost as though I have the ability to choose who I want to be and create myself. But it's me, you know, I'm not driven by fear anymore. And that's the difference between then and now, driven by fear or driven by loving connection with myself, people. It's just, to put a word on it, the freedom from the tyranny of my mind gave me a transformation into a completely different way of being alive. Because then it was called the life training. Now it's called More to Life. First bit is have a life and then have more of it. And you know, you get the people and you get some techniques, processes, exercises to create that yourself, and a huge amount of support to practice them. It's a good system. Let's say.
Thank you, Ken. You're speaking into what many others speak into. The one is this freedom of choice. That's quite a theme that resonates with many, many students who've taken the More to Life weekend or the life training. And the others also speak about the quality of support of a team of people who live this work, who practice this work, that sense of loving support unconditionally held is something that people can feel tangibly, even if they don't remember the people who were on the team. This is what we refer to them, the team that held them. And you got a vision of yourself and a vision of your life and how you will be both with yourself and with other people. I mean, that's really profound for me. Thank you, Ken. I had Boo next, but you got a quick one, Lorraine?
Yeah, I wanted to just say about the freedom that comes with knowing about the processes that we learn. And I feel free by knowing that I can choose. So I often say to people, if things aren't going well, what did I do to create that? If things aren't going well, what did I do to create that? So I have a choice about how I want to be. And even if I choose to maybe do something that's not going well, there's still a freedom in that. Whereas before, it was if life was happening to me and I had no choices, I just had to go along with it. Now I know that I am free. Whatever choice I make, I'm the one who's making it, and I'm the one who can choose to make it differently if I want to. So that for me is a really big thing, having that freedom. So I just wanted to express that.
And for me, that revelation, if you speak, that you have a choice. For some, they can have that wisdom in many ways. You can read that wisdom in a piece of book, you know, in an extract from a book. Even religious extracts talk about it. The difference with the More to Life program is that we've got a yes, but how? There's a very experiential part that you get to, that place of recognition that you have a choice. It's not simply somebody telling you you have a choice and then kind of magically knowing that I have a choice. That is for me, the point of departure, the point of difference from other programs out there, is that there's an experiential learning that is radical. You are awakened with a radical experience of life in our time together. So thank you for talking about such a huge theme, the freedom to be who you are fundamentally at your core, at your essence, without having to, like somebody said, had to be some way. Or how do you think you have to be to meet other people's expectations or societies, or your own internal demand of how you think you need to be in the world? There's freedom from that. Unconscious tyranny. and conscious choice. Thank you, Lorraine. Boo, you're smiling.
Thank you, Vijay. Yeah, well, I'm just listening, and a lot of it resonates. And I took my weekend. I think it was was it 4 years ago? 2017, November 2017. I was 36 then, and very much like Lorraine, I was at a point where I didn't really want to be around. I didn't see the point. I would often question why I was the way I was, always depressed, just no purpose in life. And then I took my weekend and just this whole new world opened up. And I can honestly say I'm at a point in my life now where I love my life. I love being alive. I have purpose. And I always know what I'm going for, whatever my next step is. But it's not just made a difference to my life, it's made a difference to my son's life. It's made a difference to my relationship with my husband, my relationship with my mum. A lot of my issues were childhood trauma, which go back to my upbringing, and that relationship with my mum is as strong as it's really strong now, where I can actually have an open, connecting conversation with my mum, and she actually tells me she loves me. She didn't tell me she loved me until I was 38 years old, after I took my weekend. And now it's like I'll get text messages from her telling me that she loves me, and she's just not done that before. And I just get it now. I get it. And so not only have I got that, and I've got that healed relationship with my mum, with my husband, what it's made me realize is the more I uncover using the tools that I now know, the more that I uncover about myself. So, me and my victimhood, blaming the rest of the world for the life that I had, where actually it was me. It was the stuff that my mind was telling me. It was what I was believing about myself and about others. And as I uncover this stuff with the tools, I actually open up a space inside me that allows love in. And I've allowed myself to feel that love that I said I was never worthy of. So that's the biggest difference it's made for me. And now I'm so in love with myself, with my husband, with my family. It's brilliant.
That's truly a very profound self-love. The ability to love and accept oneself is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
You, me, in our internal self, we know the worst secrets about ourselves, the things that we said we'd never do, or you inside out. And to get to that point of self-acceptance where you can let love in, that is huge.
Yeah.
And I can resonate so much with what you're saying, Boo. And my own experiences with my mother as well. She didn't change. She did the weekend ultimately, my mother. That was profound. But what I got from what your share reminded me of my own journey of I changed, I did the work. And some alchemy kicks in with the key people in my life that I was just blown away by. When I am returned to my loving self, I let go of my mind's interpretations of my mother, of myself, and about life, and something almost alchemically, magically profound kicks in that is beyond my understanding, certainly. So thank you, Boo, for reminding me of that about me.
Thank you.
Edwin.
Hello, everybody. How are you? It's so good to see you all. It seems I spent my whole last year talking to people from the United Kingdom or Europe. Mm-hmm. And that's what COVID has held for me, being able to meet you all. That's just one of the things that COVID has held for me. I took the More to Life program, I don't remember, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I say I don't remember because what's impacted in my life in the last year, it puts those things in a fog. Way of the Warrior, More to Life. Because I was just thinking today before we were getting together, Heart of the Matter, Power, Purpose, Beyond Anger, Personal Authority versus Willful Power, Practice of Processing, Removing the Mask, Space of Gratitude, Mastery Plus. I've done all that in the past year. And I've had a chance to focus on things in a way I couldn't focus on them before and have them make sense for me. I had a growth edge, which is to embrace every fear. And in so doing, stand in my personal authority, my authenticity, and truth-telling. I was in the grocery market the other day. I was ordering some fish, 2 different kinds of fish. And I said 3 pieces of that and 3 pieces of that. And so he did the first one with 3 pieces of it. He put it on the scale and he was pressing buttons and he couldn't get it to work. In frustration, he just put a label on it and gave it to me. And then he went the next 3 pieces of fish. And when I took it and I looked at it, the price wasn't right. And I put it there, and then he was doing the same thing until a friend said, hey, no, put it on this computer over here. And when he did it, it came up with the right price, which was 3 times the price of this one. So when he gave me that, I said, here, take this one back. It's not the right price. But before he did it, I felt it, I felt that something was wrong, that I was taking this thing and it wasn't honest. And so I'm so grateful now that I recognize these things. When I was taking one of the courses and it was sort of near the end, and people said, well, just say, what you're feeling. And I started crying and I said, thank you for allowing me to tell the truth without punishing me. Because somewhere inside of me, you get punished for telling the truth. And I've already put some, I've had some.
It's what you believe, Edwin.
Yes, what I believed, I believed. Oh, I can't tell you what a relief and a joy and a strength it is just to tell the simple truth, in everything, in all aspects of my life. I know what it is, what fear is, and I'm so grateful that I can grasp this thing called the truth. I'm so proud of myself when I do it. So all of you, you've said something that resonates with me. You've all given me something. And in these courses, even when it's not part of the course, somebody says something, well, listen, I need to modify my life in terms of drinking. I need to do the terms of cleaning up around the house. I can take that. And I've been taking all these small things from people to guide my life and make my life better. So I swam 30 laps before I came here. I made it here on time. And as I was swimming, some thoughts entered my head that in the past would be motivation for mind talk, and I had to do a clarity process, but I did it while I was swimming. It just took me a second because this is how I've chosen to be now. I just did my laps. I kept swimming. So there's a lot more that I have to say to you, but I just want to share these things. And I'm grateful that you create this space where I can tell the truth about myself. I'm so grateful.
So Edwin, may I ask, when you had that well of emotion come up, could you put a word to what the feeling was? Because I can interpret what that is, but what were you feeling each time? Twice you did that. What was the feeling? And here it is again, Edwin. What is that?
It's my integrity. It's so valuable to me. It's my integrity.
So when you have the realization that your integrity is so valuable to you, the capacity to speak the truth, which is what you spoke about, that's not what's coming up for you when you think that my integrity is so valuable to me, and it's my integrity that matters so much, and the freedom to speak my truth even at the checkout counter where somebody's weighing my fish incorrectly. What's the feeling, Edwin? You're a deeply feeling man. What's the emotion? The thought is, this is about my integrity. What's the emotion? You don't need to think it, you just need to feel it.
Is it gratitude? Is that an emotion, gratitude?
Sounds like it. That's what I'm getting this side.
I'm
This
grateful.
side of the great divide. I mean,
I'm
I'm in South
grateful.
Africa, you in the US, but
I'm grateful.
yeah, we're deeply, deeply grateful for that capacity to be in your integrity, to not keep quiet when something doesn't sit well with you. So either you're serving the generator in your mind that says, I have to be polite, I have to not speak up, or you pay homage to the truth, which is in your integrity as a human being.
Yes.
You have the right, your constitution says, for more than any other country in the world, the freedom of speech, to speak the truth, your truth in every single moment. So you're right, there's many things that you can speak of, but what's come across clearly is that which you are working through, and that is to claim and act, and be and speak in your integrity, Edwin. So thank you for what you've shared. And just for the sake of clarity, you mentioned many programs, many courses, many workshops that you've done online. And that is after having done your More to Life weekend. Many of these, not all,
Yes.
require you to take the basic course of the More to Life weekend.
Yes.
But some of them don't, and you can participate by invitation. And then you also spoke about your taking your More to Life weekend a few years ago seemed like a fog.
Yeah.
I would suggest that you've changed so much that version of you can't recognize. I mean, how many of you, I took my weekend 27 years ago. For me to go back and think about how I was 27 years ago, I think the fog refers to how much you have changed. So if I may suggest, it's a healthy fog versus a forgetful fog. It's like you'd rather remember this version of yourself, the one who's awake, who's alive, who's full of gratitude.
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, thank you for that observation. I get it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Edwin. And we've got Sophie for full share, but Izzy, do you want to add something? Yes, unmute.
Sorry, I just wanted to do a quick one. While you were sharing, Edwin, I laughed, and I wanted to just explain the context of my laughter. Edwin has had conversations with me before about his choices around alcohol, because someone in a course was talking about how I'd had some difficulties with alcohol. And it's true, there was a point where I was drinking half a bottle a night. It's a tough time in my life. And I took on a discipline, and I learned about how to take on personal disciplines to serve the me that I truly want to be through my work with More to Life. And I simply took on a discipline that said, I will not drink unless I'm in company. I will not drink on my own. And it was that got me through and out into just a whole different health regime, a different quality of life, a different purpose for each day, at a point where things had got a bit tough for me. So I laughed because I knew that I was being silently referred to, and I wanted to fess up.
Thank you for your honesty and courage, Izzy, in sharing, your journey about that. And when you talk about discipline that you took on, that is entirely voluntarily. That was something shifted in you to the point where you got to see that, this is my interpretation, you saw yourself as valuable enough to take on something that would be of benefit to you, that would serve you and serve your life. Nothing imposed upon. No one told you, now you need to do this.
No one told me to do it, but I did have somebody who woke me up to the fact that I was drinking more than was healthy. And I don't know whether I'd have spotted it if he hadn't. And he happened to be a More to Life student. He happened to be my naturopath, but he also happened to be a More to Life student. So I think he knew a thing or two that he'd learned that way as well. And I was really grateful, because there's a level of truth-telling that I have experienced both during the weekend itself, when I first took my training, but also subsequently. There's a level of truth-telling where I've learned that tough love sometimes looks like saying the things someone doesn't want to hear. And if it can be done with an open and compassionate, loving heart, and leave them to then do what they choose with it, because the choice is, as you're trying to say, was my choice to take on that discipline. Absolutely. But sometimes it takes somebody outside of me. And I think I learned a lot about the support from others, a bit that the way that Ken was mentioning it, just support from others in different ways have revolutionized the quality of my life.
Brad Brown, one of the co-founders of this program, he has a saying you often find in the guidelines: God gave me eyes so that I can see you, and God gave you eyes so I can see myself. So yeah, we have others who can really see, and that's one of the profound things for me about the More to Life Weekend and the More to Life program, that quality of truth-telling and forness for someone to say, wake up. You know, it's a bit of a wake up sometimes with a bit of a forceful love, but it's coming undeniably in forness for you, which is what you're speaking about, Evie. So thank you. Sophie, all the way from Cyprus, but Belgium.
Yes, correct. That's correct. Well, I took my weekend in May 2016, and in that period, I was off sick with burnout, and I was looking and searching for anything that could support me to come out of that, really, because that was, I was really on the hunt for anything that could help me to come out of it. And what I took away is, well, I want to echo also what Ken said, the relatability of hearing the shares, even if the situations were different, the emotions were similar, and I could relate to the emotions. And that, in the place that I was in, I felt very alone and very powerless, and I really had no idea what I could do. So I was very much looking for the yes, but how? I could see certain things, but yes, but how? How do I come out of it? Knowing is one thing, understanding is a booby prize, but that doesn't sort it out. So I came away really self-empowered. And while that wasn't immediately there, it's still one of my values that I've taken away from that weekend. Every now and again, it's, oh, no, I can't put everything on somebody else. I can't blame someone else. I may like to do that every now and again, but actually I can do something myself. I have a choice. I am self-empowered now to do something. Doesn't mean I can do everything that I would like to do, but there is something that I can do. And that is, from the situation that I was in, I can still feel that in my body. That was so powerful. It's so powerful to be able to make a change. And that, making then also, like, I can't remember now who, but making different choices in my life about what I am doing and how I'm moving forward and how I want to be in my life. It's an ongoing journey that I am on, but I am definitely relying on these processes to support myself with that.
Thank you, Sophie, and thank each and every one of you for your share. Oh, Ken, go ahead.
It's something that Edwin's real deep feeling of a sense of gratitude took me back to actually a point in my weekend that was a profound moment of transformation for me. But I remember it very clearly as a sort of standout point in the weekend in what we've called that fog, which was my numb mind, blanking everything out. I describe as my heart breaking open. And it was a very real, tangible, physical feeling in my chest, and so absent from my life for so long that it really stood out. And that's where something came out in me that I kept closed down for so long. And so much comes from that, the vulnerability, the sense of connection, where my passion comes from, where my love rests. All of that seemed in a moment to suddenly be opened in me after many, many years of being closed down. And then
Heartbreaking. Yeah,
yeah,
your heartbreaking open. How many of you have moments on your weekend where you had that? You can qualify that as saying you had moments where your heart was broken open by either somebody's share or your own journey and your own process. So I think I want to complete tonight by taking what you said, Ken, a moment on my weekend. There is a very profound exercise that involves seeing the light and life in the people around you. For me, taking a weekend in 1994, 27 years ago, that was the year of the first democratic election in South Africa. It was filled with the kind of disparity and discrimination, and it was all in that weekend coming together with Black, white, Indian, not so sure if there's a colored person, but I remember that moment of seeing transformation in that 36-hour period where people came together from separate places, polarized, and came together and were able to just honor each other for the human beings they were. For me, that was the most powerful moment on the weekend. And ever since, in my 27 years of being involved in the Motor Life program, time and time again, that is the one time where human beings break free into their hearts, no matter the color, the gender, the race, the creed, the religion. It bypasses all of that. We are human beings together as human beings. Somebody described it as learning to speak human, a different language altogether. So I want to thank you for your participation tonight. I hope it's one of many, and that you will come on again and maybe share about some other aspect that you've.
Sorry, Vijay, I know you wanted to end, but there's something I've been burning to share, and I think it's going to be important maybe for some people listening. And it was about when Boo was saying about the change in her relationship with her mother that she's had. Well, my father was dead, and my father was dead when I took the training. And I was really in deep, deep resentment against my father. And I just held it for years. But over time, using the processes of More to Life, my relationship has changed with my father, and he's still dead. And I can't explain it. But I just wanted people, if they're listening, if they're thinking, because this person in my life is no longer here, can that change? Yes, it can, because it has changed with me. And I think of my father often with love, whereas before the training, it was nothing but resentment. But my relationship with my dad has changed, and he's not here, but it still has changed. And I just wanted to add that in case anyone thinks, well, there's somebody in their life and they're no longer here, so I can't do anything about it. Yes, you can.
Thank you, Lorraine. That is certainly a helpful piece. But we're going to say good night to everyone, and we may see you again, we may not, but I look forward to many more of these. Thank you all, and good night.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Everybody, take care. Hope to see you soon.
Mm.
Bye now. Stay well.
Bye.
Bye.